your day off. My name is Corey, and of course, my best bud, Tony. What's up, Tone?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
We got another bud with us today.
Yes, we got a good friend that because we're going to be talking about this for a little bit, but you and I have been taking off a little bit more time
right
behind the chair due to our new obligation with the podcast.
Sure.
And we've had this conversation. How do we fund those days off? Or there's not really a day off, but there's days that we're taking off to fly around the country or whatever we're doing with the podcast. And so when Tim, let the cat out of the bag.
It's okay though. Let's go.
He came up with this conversation, this topic about how to fund your day off.
I love it.
And so when we saw that, we just got so excited because that's something you and I talked about. How we're going to fill those days off from taking off behind the chair. So I am totally excited to learn how to fund my day off.
I love it too, and it kind of works within our name too.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Tim.
I know, right? Mr. Tim Fisk, welcome to 10 Minutes with Tim and your day off.
Hello. Who needs a vacation?
Right. Exactly.
I want a vacation right about now.
Yeah, right. For real. Have you planned for it?
I have, and I'm going to talk about
it. Well, help us plan for ours because we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, I'd love to have this conversation with your listeners because, everybody deserves time off and we deserve to have that work-life balance. But there's a big trap in our industry where your time off could actually end up costing you a lot more than it does people who work in other industries. So I want to, have a little conversation about that trap, first of all, and then how we can avoid it going forward.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, for real. Like, what are the considerations? What do we need to think about? How do we plan for it?
Yeah, so consider this. Somebody is looking for a vacation. They've been working their butt off and they're just tired, and they decide, next month I'm going to take a week off. So they look ahead and they see that they have a lot of clients, so they have to actually give them a call and rebook them. And that right there is setting them up for a little bit of trouble. And I hate that when that happens, and it even happens in my own salon company, because I know that, first of all, they're not going to be able to fit all those guests in, and they're going to end up losing some money.
Definitely.
So we have this thing that's called opportunity cost. And what opportunity cost is you're going to take a vacation, right? Let's say your vacation costs $2,000, airfare, hotel, whatever, eating out. But then there's that time off that you're taking away from work. If that time off actually results in you earning less money in that period, whether it's that month or even that quarter or even the year than it did in the previous year, then you have to add that loss of income to the cost of your vacation. And in some cases, it could add another $1,000 to the cost of your vacation. So now a $2,000 vacation just cost you $3,000.
Wow.
How do we mitigate that?
That happens to me all the time.
I was just going to say that this is happening to service providers all the time, and it's just kind of something that people accept. But I think that there's some tools and tricks that we can use to kind of help mitigate it, as you say, and make sure that we're still earning not just what we earned last year, but even more with some really beautiful time off that we can recharge and get back into it afterwards. So the first thing I think you need to do is you need to plan your time off in advance, well in advance. And I learned this trick from Peter Mahoney, who's the president of Summit Salon Business Center and a mentor of mine. And I've been doing it now for about 4 years, and it's just completely changed my life. So what I mean by that is I want you to sit down with your calendar and with your partner, if you have one and you need to plan time off together. I want you to sit down and look at that calendar in like November or December for the following year. And then you're going to pick your time off for that whole entire year before the year even starts, before the ball drops. I want you to know exactly when you're going to take off in that following year.
So what weeks you're taking off? You want to pre-know that.
Exactly. So for me personally, what I do is I like to take about 10 days off in the spring, somewhere time around April. And then I like to take 10 days off in September. And then I'll take probably 3 or 4 long weekends where I like to get out of town in the summer, because that's how we do it in New England, right? So I've got those dates already determined for actually, for the next year. So that by the end of November, I already know what I'm doing for time. I don't know what I'm doing. I know when I'm doing my time off in the following year. And that's the key. You don't have to know exactly what you're doing. The idea is that you're just going to fill it up with something really cool, but you have to create this non-negotiable time off that is coming up for yourself.
I love that.
Totally.
So
and the trick is non-negotiable though, because what happens to all of us, stuff comes up, opportunities happen. You have to make a decision about how important this time off is to you and how much you're going to need it, so that you can actually say, no, I'm not going to take advantage of this opportunity. This is time off for me and my family. This is what I've set aside to create that balance in my life.
I love that. All right. So I know what weeks I'm taking off next year. How am I going to set up my book, or how am I going to set up, the year, so I'm not losing money or
how am I going to make that money up?
Yep, exactly.
I think the key to this is just to really go back to your guests and what they need. So, every single one of your guests, based on the service that they get, there is a schedule for how often they need to come and see you. And of course, that schedule is going to be interrupted by your time off. But that doesn't mean that they should come 1 or 2 times less in the year just because their particular schedule conflicts. We have to actually look at our guest needs, and this is all about rebook, you guys. Rebook them around your vacation time or your time off, so that you're still making the same amount of money and you're seeing those guests the same number of times within that year.
Boom. That makes sense.
Makes total sense, right? And
yeah.
then as they're pre-booking, they're not pre-booking on a time that would be scheduled off, and then you have to cancel them and then do the cancel and squeeze.
Exactly. And, it's only going to affect a certain number of people. So it's not like we have to look at all of the guests, right? We know that people are pretty much on a schedule if you're doing really well. And if you're going to spend, the more time you want to take off, I'd say the higher your rebook percentage needs to be. So if I'm looking at that 10 days and I know that would potentially impact, let's say it would probably impact somewhere around 30 guests, right? I need to look at those 30 guests and say, okay, here are their names. These are the number of times that they would be coming in the year. Let's make sure that we come up with a schedule for them that works, and that we're very conscious about rebooking them around the vacation so that they still come in. Let's say they come in every 6 weeks. They're still going to come in 8 times that year.
Or they just might have to come in 5 weeks, one of those trips.
Yeah, for 2 of those appointments, right? So, right. Which is fine, because the key, right, this isn't about tricking them, and it's not about bamboozling them. This is about, we don't want our guests to have a bad hair day, right?
Right.
And that's the other thing that happens. Our guests are knocking down the door when we get back from vacation, and their hair's jacked up because they didn't get a chance to get in with us on a schedule that worked for them. We have to go back to making it about them. And once we do that, we'll actually find that it fills in our schedule quite beautifully. We're going to earn a little bit more on the front end and the back end of that vacation, but everybody's going to get taken care of, and we're going to totally fund our day off with 0 opportunity cost.
Yeah, because imagine what they look like after 5 weeks versus 7 weeks. So
yeah, exactly. Right.
That's true.
Yeah, I know. And most of them would prefer to do 5 over. If it's a 6 week, they would rather do the week before than
absolutely
than wait it out. Especially with
absolutely. They want to look their best, and we want them to look their best. So it's just about having those honest conversations with them, and imagine so far in advance that you're able to have that conversation with them in a way that it doesn't disrupt their life either.
Yeah, because a lot of times when I pre-book my clients, they're like, oh, they come in every 4 weeks, and they're like, oh, I'm gone that week. They would rather come in 3 weeks rather than wait 5 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Because they want to look funky fresh for vacation too.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. So, that's it. The rebooking and making sure that you have that plan and making sure that you have that time off in advance. That's one surefire way to ensure that you mitigate the opportunity cost that's associated with taking vacations in our industry.
Love it.
I wish I knew that 30 years ago.
Think about how much money you would have made over
know, right?
years.
Absolutely.
So Tim, so what you've given us is the best case scenario and how one should best do this. What at Salon Hairdustry, your salon, do you have a minimum of like, if you want to take a vacation, how much advance your service providers have to let the salon know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really based on the guests and the guest experience at the end of the day. I want everybody on my team to have time off. I want them to be able to recharge. I want them to be able to enjoy their lives and the success that they have in our industry. But at the same time, I need to make sure that our guests are feeling taken care of by my company and that they're in really good hands. So it's a minimum of 6 weeks to request any time off in my salon company. Of course, we always make last minute exceptions, but what we're asking our service providers to do in those shorter windows of time is to add a day within the week of that time off, or 2 days, maybe even the equivalent of what they're taking off, so that guests can still come in and see them within that time period.
So if you're off on a Tuesday or something, then you would say you would ask them to work Tuesday to make up for like a Friday off or something.
Yeah, something like that. And, what happens sometimes, and this is just, a little aside for our owners here, is we'll get somebody that wants the Saturday off, which is typical. Who doesn't want a Saturday off? And they're going to try to fill it. They're going to try to replace it with a Monday day shift. And then we have to have an honest conversation with them about those Saturday clients and whether or not they're still going to be able to see you. So maybe we have to look instead at adding an evening shift instead of a day shift to make up for us.
That's funny.
True.
Yeah, they're Saturdays for a reason.
That's right. Well, and especially if you're at that place in your career where most of your guests need to come in after work hours, so in the evenings or on Saturdays, which we find that younger people, that's usually the case because they're doing their peers plus 10. So people in their 20s and in their early 30s don't necessarily have the opportunity to take time off work to go to the salon.
I dig that. Are you finding, and I don't know if this is and Tony and I've had this conversation, like in the, we're right outside of DC and there's a lot of government work that's now working from home. And there's a lot of like companies in the area that are working from home. Are you finding that? I find that like the, that 3 o'clock window that was dead for so long, that those are almost like the ideal times for a lot of people that are working, I put it in quotations, from home, but I find that those are priorities. And actually my evenings have lightened up a bit, if I'm going back 25 years when I first got in the industry.
That's a really keen observation. And I love that even we're talking about this because what we know about even millennials, right? So they've actually changed the way that we approach the work-life balance and have created like more free time, more flexibility with schedules, which has kind of thrown off some of the rules and some of the standards that we've experienced in our salon. I've talked to you guys about this before. In my salon, we had this salon siesta. It's like from 1:30 to 3 o'clock or 3:30, where the salon was really quiet. We're starting to see that that's actually starting to fill up more and more. And now we're really needing to close on Friday at 6 because nobody wants to come on Friday night. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, I think, like you said, it's tied into the work market or the work culture that we see shifting in America today.
Yeah, I have plenty of clients that they're sitting up front waiting and doing work still. They brought their laptop so they can continue to work while they're waiting for,
There's some salons that actually have to open up at 6:30 in the morning because they're taking care of a work clientele that's commuting into a large city. So
I think let's not get carried away now, Tim. Hold on, slow down.
I don't think about it. Like you could work from 6:30 to 12:30 and then have the rest of your life off. I mean, it's not really that terrible.
I've actually noticed that that Saturdays are no longer the priority that they once were either. And I don't know if it's because of where I am in my career as far as age wise or how long I've been doing it, but it's just it seems like it's not.
It doesn't sound like you have very many young people in your book there.
But again, if I go back to the early on in my career, like there was Saturdays was such it would book up 6 months in advance. You know what I mean? And now like it just doesn't seem to be the same priority. And I think it's because there's so many of my so much of my clientele that works from quote unquote home.
Yeah, so much more flexibility in the workplace, which is just great for us because now we can actually have a little bit more flexibility in our workplace, right?
Yeah, some of us on Saturdays mark off at 2 o'clock so they can have the whole afternoon off.
If I was your coach, I'd coach you not to work Saturdays at all.
Boom.
See, well, I'm already started. That was a jab at me.
He's halfway there.
Right. That was a jab at me.
You'd start with every other, and then after a couple of months or 3 at every other, you'd be coming to me saying, I don't want to work Saturdays anymore. And I'd say, good, let's end this now.
Let's work it. I like that. We've been at Tony and I've been at 4 days a week since for a long time now.
That's great.
And I'm a big proponent of that. Like, you know, I think if I had my own salon company, it would be mandatory 4 days a week.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, you know, I think we have to, in salons, we just have to be flexible with what people want, right? I have some people that work 3 days a week. They do their full time in 3 days a week. Now, they have to earn the right to be able to do that. So these are level 5, level 6s, you know, some of my big earners. But I want to be flexible with everybody because I want them to have the life that they want to have. I'm just going to be honest with them about building their career and how their schedule impacts that.
Right. Sure. You know, first or second year, then you're going to have to be off those Saturdays, right? I mean, you got to have to work those Saturdays.
Yeah.
If you want to build, you do. Yeah.
Especially if your big earners aren't in the house, right? So now you have open stations, and now, you know, if you get walk-ins, if you guys do walk-ins on, you know, Saturdays certainly are walk-in priority days.
That's right.
I love the Tim's just his whole outlook on the whole thing. He wants the best life for his stylists, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, it is a business that they're running together. You know, he's having those honest conversations with them.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I love that.
That's it, man. So Tim, you got anything else to add?
You know, the only thing that I would say is we're talking about funding your day off is you have to have a savings plan. I mean, I want you guys to consider putting away the first $10 of your tips every single day. You know, if we do that and we're working on average 20 days, that's 240. That's about $2,500 a year that you can squirrel away for your vacation.
For $10.
For $10 a day. So, I mean, it's that simple at the end of the day, or whatever. Maybe it's even more than that, or maybe your company has some sort of savings plan that you can delve into, or if you have direct deposit, considering having a percentage of your check go into a separate bank account that you don't even have a debit card for. So like I have many accounts in my own, I mean, because I know myself, right? If I have the money in this account that's spendable, I'm going to spend it, right?
It's spendable, man.
Hey, I could spend it. So I have these accounts where things go for whether it's for bills or my mortgage or whatever, that I don't even know the account number. I don't have a piece of plastic where I can access that money in any way. It just kind of automatically goes there and then serves its purpose and leaves. Set up those kinds of systems and tools for yourself so that you're saving that money so that you can have the kind of vacations that you deserve to have. And that you're not scrambling at the last minute to find the money or borrowing from something else that you should be paying in order to enjoy that vacation with your family.
We a few months ago we did a podcast with a guy named Brian Noons, and he was putting $30 a day away of his tips, and he said before no time he was at $100,000. You know, and now he's on 100,000. He also said, which I thought was so insightful, he said, when I didn't have money, I love to spend money. When I had money, I hate to spend money. So when I don't have it, I want it, you know, and when I have it, I don't want to spend it. I thought that was just so insightful and so great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, at $30 a day, that's $7,200 a year. Within 8 years, you're looking at $100,000 savings if it's an interest-bearing account. So like, absolutely.
Actually, I think if I remember the conversation correctly, I think he did it every day. So he did $30 times 7.
Oh, times 7.
Yeah. So he would that was his discipline. Like if, you know.
So even if he worked 5 days, he would put $30, you know, those extra 2 days out of those 5 days.
Exactly.
It's like dues. I'm going to pay my dues today.
You know? Totally is. It totally is.
Pay yourself first, right?
Yeah. And then he took that $100,000 and he went around the world.
That is rad.
He took a year off. He took a year off and he went around the world, which is
insane.
Incredible.
$30 a day. How many stylists blow $30 on lunch in Starbucks every single?
That's exactly what our conversation was with Brian. You know.
But I want to say I would never say this, and I actually have this written down.
I'm never going to say it, but I'm going to say it.
No, I would never want to say don't do the Starbucks and the lunch. We don't live in an industry, right? So I'm not going to say if I want to go to Paris that I can't have Starbucks anymore. I'm going to say I like my Starbucks and I want to go to Paris. So this is what I'm going to have to do behind the chair in order to have both.
Boom.
Chaka laka laka laka
Yeah.
laka laka.
That's it. I like that mentality right there.
Yep.
You know what I mean, I don't want to give up to get something else.
Uh-uh.
How can I have both?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe in that's the way that we actually get things in life. I believe that we have to look at our earning in this dynamic industry and just say, hey, how can I turn the dial? How can I make more? And I can have all the things that I want in life.
I love that. I think that's Rich Dad Poor Dad philosophy, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Wasn't it Rich Dad?
I'm gonna Tim in my pocket. Can I get like a little miniature Tim and just carry Tim around?
I love it.
I should market that.
Right. Just a little Tim in your pocket.
Just a little T in the P.
I'm not going there. Tim, dude, that was awesome.
Thanks, guys. I mean, let's all earn right and earn smart and take time off and have a fun life. Life is for living. Let's have a good time.
Boom. Mr. Tim Fisk, thank you very, very much for joining us on your 10 minutes on your day off or whatever.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Hey, so there it is. Hey, this is a message that we've been trying to bring, I don't know, for the last couple of months, actually since we started the podcast. Hey, so if you like the podcast or if you find that it's useful, please leave us a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave us a rating and a review.
But if you don't like it, forget about it.
Yeah, totally forget about this message. We also want to thank Sarah and Blaine from Pretty Gritty. Sarah and Blaine, they are a band out of Portland, Oregon, and we just want to thank them very much for allowing us to use their song, Pleased to Meet You, on our podcast. That's cool. I think you can find their music on iTunes.
Peace and hair grease.